Well, what time is it now? Time for another surf report. This week, technically just outside of our surf window, but we have a total solar eclipse. Another portal opens, this one to new successes. So already sort of a positive spin on things, but just a heads up that most of us might be feeling, a little bit distractible. And that goes well with our little surf thing here. Let's get to the summary slide. Now, why is everything shaking? This one from June 3rd to June 9th. And as you can see, the overall influence, see what we do here is we triangulate between astrology, the I-Ching, and the dream bot. This is the collective unconscious. And we see this area right here is the overlap of all three. It's generally a little bit bigger area than what we're used to, but that is distractibility. And you're going to see it pasted everywhere. You're going to see it in every method that we have, from the dream bot to the I-Ching to even astrology. And the astrology version of this is Mercury retrograde. Mercury, as appears to us, is moving in the backwards, going towards the sun, and the moon and the sun are going to come together into a total solar eclipse with 1 degree away from a retrograde Mercury. So Mercury is in a Cazimi situation, which so is already weakened in retrograde and weakened. And so this whole, our mentality isn't accurate. To put even more pressure on logic and reason, we have Mercury squaring, Mercury square Neptune. So and Neptune's going to end up with 3 of these squares: the moon, the sun, and Mercury all at once. And so profound, like, conflict with what we imagined, or what our dreams are, or what we think the goals are, or what we think reality is. It's just like, it's a mess. So distractibility is the name of the game here. I think it might be our highest congruency score. There's a lot going on in the sky. Look at me. I'm already distractible. I'm just bouncing around from one thing to the next. So get ready for a distractible surf report. All right, but we're going to start with the dream bot next. Okay, thank you everybody for likes, shares, and especially the comments. I love hearing from all of you on both YouTube and also Telegram. Also over to Rumble. Rumble's over there as well, and available for all of you who are tired of the YouTube thing. And I think a lot of the old surf followers were in this category where there's like nothing on YouTube anymore. At least that's what I'm noticing. It's like they got rid of all the cool stuff, and so nothing left. So if you want to go to Rumble, I'm posting there as well, but especially Telegram. I've got a new connection I'm going to speak to later today, hopefully when I have time, on Telegram, about a connection that I've made between this whole disclosure thing that's happening. So weird, agendized UFO release-ish thing that's due supposedly this month. And then the fringe alternative thought about the DUMBs and the underground bases and all that, and the war that might be taking place here. That's what we're looking at in the people's dreams. This, if you're new here, this is the collective unconscious, basically. This is what people are dreaming about. The most common words are at the top. And we want to know this because where mind is, the world is created from there. And so what are we creating? Well, the top of this list are glasses and study. So it's a very learning sort of a thing. And then when you include conversation, and then there's that word again, distracted. It's actually in the collective unconscious. These are all Mercury words, and it's not a big meme here, but it's worth connecting together. So the blue is Mercury. And the red is much bigger, but it's like the deep, dark space in this world, not out there, but inside the earth. That's what it feels like. We have under, dark, staircase. We have deep. So, and then we have the words like fight and uniform and then tall green. So it's very, very interesting. And I'll have more about that on Telegram, but this is like the deep war that I don't know. And this is like several weeks in a row we've had this collective unconscious doing this. It's like seeing something very deep, very dark. All right. Although good, good things are happening out there, there's a lot of weirdness and discombobulating and very distractible. There's that word again. All right, let's look at the astrology. And this is our normal summary slide for the astrology. We're going to talk about the days that are in between these black vertical lines from 3 to 9 June. And so in here, there's not quite as much as happening as the rest of June, but let me go ahead and give you an overview for June while we're at it. We have Pluto in retrograde right now. Towards the end of the month, we'll get into Neptune retrograde and Jupiter retrograde. These are the further out planets will be going in retrograde. We have Mars next week is going to be going into Leo. Venus will follow into Leo at the end of June. We have right now Mercury in retrograde, and this keeps Mercury in homeland of Gemini throughout the month of June, going direct about the third week in June. Then a big one for our distractibility is Mercury square Neptune, and that's happening right now. It goes exact this weekend on the 5th, and this one creates a lot of discontent with what we're seeing and inability to really rationalize what we're imagining, or we're further away from the dreams that we imagined or wanted, sort of goalless in a way, or things don't make sense just naturally. So there's a lot of distractibility right here in this alignment that really lasts all the way through June. Then we have the sun. Eventually we'll go into Cancer, but this week, the main energetic force is going to be happening with the sun and the moon coming together for a new moon, but it's a total solar eclipse, annular, meaning that there's going to be a ring of fire. We'll talk about all about that when we get to the day by day. So let's start that now. Thursday the 3rd, just a reminder where we talked about the last part of last CIRF report was Venus going into Cancer. This makes her a little bit more vulnerable. She's going to be protecting herself, but there's a lot more emotions there with Venus because it's in a water sign. And so that can really enhance the bonding. Emotions can tear people away and bring people together. Every emotion has an opportunity of bringing people together. So you're probably going to see the relationships having more emotions. And so if you know how to navigate those emotions, you can either bring the relationship together and really harmonize, or it can really split you away. So you have that. Then the finance thing. Remember when we had Venus square Jupiter and we predicted that the markets might be disrupted, and sure enough, they really were. It was a little bit later than what we expected, I think a few business days later, but it did happen. And so the opposite thing might happen, except, so now it's a Venus trine Jupiter, our two finance planets. And so easy energy back and forth, but look at this. They're in a trine in water signs, and the water signs are tricky. This Pisces, Jupiter is in Pisces, sort of the Chicken Little of the zodiac, and scared-ish, or can get towed under in terms of emotion. So my point is that the emotional planets, they're the financial planets, are going to be more emotional than normal. And when things are more emotional, you're just going to have a lot more ups and downs in the market. when people buy and sell in out of emotions, big roller coasters happen in markets. So I'm just calling maybe not for an up or down, but both, maybe more turmoil in the markets because people are going to be more protective or more emotional in nature from the higher level economic standpoint to the lower personal finance thing. So I'll leave it at that. And then in addition, you have squared Venus square, at least the moon and Neptune on this day. So that brings even a little bit more of a irritable emotion in Venus. So if that's any consternation, maybe a little bit of a downward trend, but overall the point is the main trend of economics is just the up and down and turmoil. We still have that balance of power all week. So we have Mars and Pluto in an opposition, and Mars isn't quite yet to an exact opposition. That's going to happen this week. And it's the balance of power. So you got the outer power. Remember that Mars is in Cancer and so weakened a little bit. And Pluto's that deep inner power. And so that's being balanced out, continues to be balanced out. We also have Uranus continuing to chip away at the status quo and the foundation and the government, as is Saturn. And Saturn in Aquarius is sort of the disclosure. Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, or the new ruler. Saturn is the ancient ruler of Aquarius. So, but they're in conflict with each other, and they're chiseling away at each other. So Saturn in Aquarius is that disclosure thing and revelation, and Uranus is the freedom part and being unique and eccentric. And we're definitely feeling all of that. If you aren't, I don't know what's wrong with you. No, I'm just kidding. All right, Friday the 4th. This is where Mercury's getting close enough. Remember, Mercury and Sun are sort of going in opposite directions. And the part of fortune is going to be a factor here, not day by day because it transits so fast, but because of when the solar eclipse happens, part of fortune is going to be in there. Not super close, but it's going to be a factor. And it's going to be sort of the fortunate part of all this. Otherwise, it's going to be distractible, sort of crazy, based on all the squares and which ones are in squares, and then the Mercury retrograde. But this is the Mercury retrograde combust, meaning that they're within that 8 degrees, and so or getting close to it. This one's just inside of 9 degrees. So this is the start of Mercury combust, meaning that Mercury is not going to be quite on its A game. And if there was already distractibility, the ADHD, the attention deficit, the lack of focus, the what's next, the meandering, that's what the I-Ching calls it, just meandering or wandering. And that's what this feels like, is Mercury in retrograde and then weakened even more in a combust sort of thing. And it's only going to get worse as the week goes on. Then notice that you have Mercury square Neptune. And this makes you a little bit more conflicted with your dreams, conflicted with what you imagined earlier, your expectations. It's also sort of confining because there's no escape. Neptune is going to be the escape artist, and that energy doesn't want to go, or it can't go to the escape. It only pressurizes. Maybe it feels confining, and so the logic and the thinking is trying to imagine what's out there but can't, and so it can come to a head and burst in some other manner. But it's going to be a very mental thing, primarily because of Mercury. And it may not be logical. Saturday, the 5th, it's a lunar T-square, all right? And remember, you've got the power, the inner power struggle, between inner power and outer power, Mars and Pluto. So this can be if the moon is our emotional content in Aries, can just be ready to fight. Fight or flight, he's the warrior. Aries is the warrior. So this is angry energy, irritation, and it's in a T-square with the other power. So it is pumping up just massively. So expect on June 5th, on Saturday, just maybe just a strong sense of underlying frustration. And so the answer normally for a T-square, especially in this case, is to come to the opposite end of the T-square and be in Libra. And Libra would just be go with the flow, just get along, breathe, think about things, get your time, time away to think, or time together to really talk through things. Either way, Libra is the negotiator, so negotiate and balance things out. And luckily, this T-square doesn't last very long because it's the moon. Sunday, the 6th. We have the Sun and Mercury in that square over to Neptune. So Neptune picks up another square, and so dreams get conflicted even more. Then we have the moon going over Uranus, quick changing emotions, which is sort of ironic because you're in non-changing or non-adaptable Taurus. So that can be very interesting, is sort of being, if you can imagine your emotions changing quickly because of moon over Uranus, but your head staying the same. So headstrong. It can quickly get you into a incongruent state, which can piss other people off. So in that regard, I'd just stay aware of quick changing emotional content. Some people might be releasing information out of anger or out of spite or out of emotions or out of headstrong stubbornness. But certainly it's not about making anything right. That would be more of a Virgo or even a Libra thing. But now it's about Aquarius, Saturn, Uranus and Saturn, like we talked about. Emotionally charged change, hastening the alteration of the status quo. The world is changing, and it's speeding up. The rate of change is speeding up. And this is part of it. Main part of it is the Uranus square Saturn. And then the moon is going to make this an emotionally charged event. Monday, the 7th. Take a breather. There's a lot less happening. The squares are still there. As the moon continues to progress, you're going to see 3 squares over here, but sort of quiet. The only thing we haven't talked about is Pluto sextile Neptune. So there's an opportunity for deep power through your dreams, like recognizing your inner power, or maybe a transformation in your dreams, or some sort of powerful escape from something. Not all escape is bad. But generally, if you're escaping something that's internal, like an emotion, generally speaking, that's going to create more problems in your life. But this is an opportunity to work with your dreams and connecting that to your deeply subconscious inner power. On Tuesday, the moon's in its transition to the new moon, and it's in its last phase of waning. It's going to go over the North Node. So you've got this futuristic look, this future-looking look with the North Node. You've got Mercury in retrograde, so ish more of the past timeline in terms of your logic and comparisons and memory and communication, sort of the past in there. So you've got the full timeline in here, the North Node and Mercury retrograde. And then, of course, those squares, very important to remember those. And then on Wednesday, we can see it all happening in its final stages. You've got emotions into the future at the North Node. You've got 9 degrees away from the sun. And you've got a couple of three trines now to Saturn. So some easy energy facilitating the disclosure, the new status quo, with more of an Aquarius flair, which is knowledge and freedom loving, collective good, that sort of thing. All right, but this is our last CIRF day, but just a few hours after the end of Wednesday, getting into June 10th, Thursday, at roughly sunrise, this is when the total solar eclipse is happening, and they're so perfectly aligned. I'm going to highlight this down here. This is where sun is perfectly parallel with moon. It's one of those exact overlaps, and those of you in the right space, and that's going to be sort of the Northeast and North America and Canada. It would be the east side of Canada. And I'll show you a picture of all this, but only they will be able to see the ring of fire, which is a total solar eclipse. And as far as timing goes, this one's based off of, this is 5:52 a.m. That's based off Central Time, and it's happening just before sunrise. But I want to show you really quick. This is, I can't, so let me order it differently. Bring to the front. So this is Los Angeles. It's going to be happening at 3:52, and it's before sunrise. But you're seeing the same azimuths. The sun and the moon is at 19 degrees Gemini, 47 minutes. So delete this. And then let's bring in, this is New York City. So this one is at 6:52 a.m. So it's happening above sunset. So sunrise. It's after sunrise. And so they're going to be able to see more of this, this event. So in Central Time, I'm afraid we're not going to be able to see it, but over in New York, should be able to. It's going to happen a little bit later. According to the reports, eclipse will begin in Canada, northern Ontario, and onto the north side of Lake Superior. Here's a picture of it. So you can see the path of the annular eclipse. This is happening mostly in Canada. And as it progresses down, you get to see a little bit less of the ring of fire, just less and less. And then, of course, as you get more into the U.S., people in Chicago maybe see 1/4 of the shadow of the moon. And so anyway, there you have it. It's a lot more northern. It's the same path as we saw a couple of years ago, and that path was happening through Illinois. And so I think each time it just it moves upward, the path, same path, but now upward. All right. Had enough of the astrology yet? We're going to talk more about you know what? Sorry about that. So that's where it is. But in terms of what you're feeling through this, and for sure, even though this is happening, roughly 6 hours, depending on where you are, 6 hours after our surf week, it's still an energy that's going to be felt more and more. So you have the North Node. This is sort of a future orientation. You remember seeing the square? I was talking about the squares. Well, if we include the part of fortune, there's another square. You don't have a square with the North Node, though. And the part of fortune, by its very definition, because the moon and the sun are together in the same piece of sky, the part of fortune is right on the ascendant. And the sun and the moon are within, we're doing math, 3 degrees of the ascendant. So this is a conjunction. In other words, or at least in Central America, call it Northwest Arkansas, Central Time Zone, the part of fortune is in this conjunction. And so this is a fortune. This is a portal to new successes. The key is to realize how your mind is going to play tricks on you. The mind is past oriented with Mercury in retrograde and weakened because it's within 1 degree of the sun, and it never really gets into the cazimi because it's not in the same piece of sky in terms of azimuth and vertical. So distractibility is high because of the squares. The ego's distractible. Your thoughts are distractible. But the only saving grace here is you got Gemini. And so Mercury, by its very definition, is good for Mercury, and vice versa. Mercury good for Gemini, and they're home. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. Even having a hard time speaking and making words right now. This is the energy, folks, and this is what, 8 days out, so it's only going to get stronger. Just imagine if I'm having a hard time already with this. This is going to be even rougher, the period, especially right before this solar eclipse. So watch out for mind distracting you from new potential successes. You've got a very beneficial north node here. Now, yeah, granted, this is 9 degrees out. Normally conjunctions are 8 degrees, but it's not just an on-off switch. It doesn't turn into a conjunction, just light switch goes on at 8 degrees. It's a linear energy thing, or it could be an exponential relationship. But nonetheless, the north node has an influence on this total solar eclipse, and it's a future oriented, but Mercury's sort of the past oriented. And so you've got the whole timeline in here, making you even more distractible. I'd say use that to your advantage if you can see into the future and compare to the past, and vice versa, but only if it instructs. If it keeps you away from getting insights and manifesting new successes, I'd say ignore past and future and just be in the present moment. We'll get into the solution a little bit later, but you got to do as much as you can to be less distractible. So if that includes eliminating time from your existence momentarily, then do so. Get into the present moment. Oh boy, what else do we have here? We have all of these entities: Mercury, Moon, Sun, with the trine over to Saturn. That's a steadying effect. So we have that, and you can use that Saturn. That's going to feel like hardship, but it also feels straightforward. It's like Capricorn's, the Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn. And so Capricorns like that structure. It's like they don't shy away from the mountain. They know that that's just what they do. They just have to climb it. And so you can use that influence. Just it is what it is. And just go do it. And that could give you enough distance from the distractibility to get you your new successes. All right, now let's get into the I-Ching. And this is from June 3rd to June 9th. It's no coincidence. The I-Ching picks out the Wanderer, Hexagram 56. And that's the distractible one. It's like, what's next? Or there's an inwardly wanderer knows that it is sometimes difficult to discern the intentions of strangers. So there's just this mental inability to really assess this week, and logic becomes hard, and especially with the square over to Neptune, makes it hard to rationalize things. The twin houses of mystery and discovery rule any journey we take. Each new day is launched in a fresh landscape, one that reaches out to grab our attention. Travel is a great teacher and the great equalizer. And listen to these change lines. So we had 2 change lines. That's 1 and 2, the bottom 2. Fire over mountain. Line 1, when you are in a vulnerable position, as is any wanderer, do not become involved with trivial matters that are not your concern. Don't allow yourself to be distracted. I thought that was really funny because the I-Ching is all about this as well, watching out for distractibility. Don't letting yourself be distracted. Stay focused. Mindfulness meditation is a great way to foster better attention, better focus. But here's line 2. 2 of the greatest assets of a traveler are modesty and natural affection for people, even those who are very different from yourself. Also, the more ambitious the journey, the more beneficial it is to share it with a trustworthy companion. So, roughly, I'd estimate that a lot of these CIRF energies, and I know a lot of you agree, we're sort of ahead of the energies a little bit, like a week or 2. Well, we had this energy last week. So we took an ambitious journey, and it was glorious. All right, we ready for the influence? No, we already did that. The influence is distractibility. See, I can't. We're ready for the solution. 14 is the affluence. This is great success, and this is where the total solar eclipse comes in. This is the solution where you're gaining success through this portal, but you got to not let yourself get distracted. Supreme success, like the proverbial pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. A person whose fortunes have turned for the better shines brightly now. At the core of true success lies unselfishness, generosity, and modesty. It is the tendency of a flexible or yielding nature to draw powerful forces to it, especially when prosperity begins to manifest. In other words, when people see you manifesting success, they want to be part of it, and they want part of that. And so you have to match that with grace and dignity to maintain the supreme success and great abundance. And then watch out for pride and arrogance. We've been through this affluence before. It's not our first time. Stay attentive enough to manage your affairs well. That speaks to don't be distractible. And remember that while prosperity beats the alternative, it's only one element of a satisfying life. So it doesn't mean that it's material prosperity. This could be, reaching harmony in a relationship, reaching agreement in a negotiation, making a really nice contract that works well with your life mission, whatever it is. Lots of different versions of prosperity. Health is probably the best prosperity for all of us. Wouldn't you agree? So we put this into our calculator. We put even the solar eclipse is just outside of our CIRF window, but the effect is still there inside of our week. So we plotted that at the time. It's 19 degrees, 47 minutes. We follow that plot over into Hexagram 45 of the Rave mandala, and then Sidereal Astrology is going to suggest Taurus. So here we go. Hexagram 47, the gate of realizing. Oh man, this works really well with distractibility. This gate is the gate of realization, but is not a comfortable process. The gate can create a lot of mental stress and anxiety. It is a burden even at its best. So you can see how the strain of distractibility, Mercury retrograde, it weaves all the way through this CIRF report, from the influence to the solution, and realize that this is the gate of oppression, but it's an ongoing process. And the answer, their answer for gate 47 is patience. Patience. Remember we talked about the timeline? If you notice yourself going to the future, comparing to the past, or being stuck in the past, any timeline here is probably not going to be of great benefit or confusing. And so patience, and just get into the present moment and lose the sense of time. There are ways to lose the sense of time. Mindfulness or any sort of meditation can do that. Astral travel, dream work, sleeping, these are all ways to get out of the time matrix. There is only waiting for the moment of realization, the aha moment. And that's part of the solution. How anxiety ridden is that? Just wait for the gate of realizing to give you the sense that you know. All right, here's the line of 47, oppression. It matches distractibility, a restrictive and adverse state as a result of internal weakness or external strength, or both. In other words, we feel like we're on the lower side of the imbalance. That's what it feels like. And specifically, the sun and the moon come together at line 3 of hexagram 47 in the Rave mandala, and it's self-oppression. So if this energy feels oppressing or it feels constrictive, according to the Rave mandala line 3, it's you oppressing yourself. Here's the reading. The conscious and well-integrated being whose natural right action will eventually come to see the unfoundedness of its oppression, the eventual realization that one is really okay. Then on the downside, Mars in detriment, a self-oppression is so highly energized that it may prove irreversible and destructive, extreme difficulty in realizing one's own self-worth. So if you're really deep down into the bowels of all the influences that we've talked about, the funk, the constriction, the distractibility, the overwhelm, the anxiety, you may want to start with self-worth and boosting that this week. That's according to the Rave. All right, let me go ahead and get the final slide together, and I'll show you the rundown of what needs to happen. Interzention.com for mental health, therapy, astrology readings, human design readings, hypnotherapy, and overall peace and contentment. All right, go to interzention.com for more of that. There's our overall influence on the top side of this slide. Distractibility. There's your ring of fire. And that's a pretty cool photo. I hope that some of you out there can get, really close to that ring of fire and, take some safe, some ocular or some help of technologies. Take some pictures for us and post them on Telegram. That'd be cool. But anyway, there's the distractibility, and it's coming from more than just the total solar eclipse. A lot more. Here's the summary of the solution. 14 of the I-Ching says, success, prosperity begins. So remain flexible and generous and modest. Exhibit grace and dignity. And then the Rave mandala is the gate of realizing. It's the waiting. Even while you feel oppressed, feel constricted, you need to wait for the realization that all is well, that everything is okay. Sidereal Taurus is going to help all of this with being deliberate, dependable, and practical, and even patient. Patient is a direct overlap to the Rave mandala. Integrity and reliable and dependable is a direct overlap of the I-Ching 14. Where they don't correspond is this flexible part. I-Ching has us being flexible, and we know that Taurus is more of bullheaded and stubborn and obstinate. So let's figure out how to make this overlap work. Another portal opens, eclipse in tropical Gemini. Time leading up to the eclipse is mental stress, possible feelings of contraction or confusion, or distractibility, lack of focus, etc. The first action item is patience. And if you notice yourself in a timeline, past, future, try to get out of it. Try to meditate. Try to be in the experience. Taurus is good at this, is getting in a timeless position of the here and now, using your five senses. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you see? What do you taste? What do you smell? What do you feel? And there's more than just five senses, by the way, but those are the main physical ones. But you can be in the present moment, in the physical reality, so deeply, so intently, that time disappears. It's the 3D reality. Time is the 4D. 4 dimensions. All right. Remain steady using sidereal Taurus, deliberate, practical, and reliable. Special traits. The hardest part of the Taurus is to remain flexible with the I-Ching 14, but the overlap is clear. Prosperity, Taurus is good with that. Success, good with that. Affluence, really only takes off with grace and dignity, something Taurus is natural with. Add a foundation of integrity to maximize the eclipse energy. Moving about and travel is fine this week, as long as it's not an escape, because you'll create that conflict with Neptune. The Neptunian escape is conflicted, triple, quadruple conflicted. But it doesn't mean you can't move about. It just means don't move about and travel based on escapism. Don't do that. Just do it because you want to. Do it because you're a Mercury explorer. You're curious, curiosity. And it helps the timelessness thing as well. When you're vacationing and taking a load off, depending on what you're doing, if you're sightseeing or if you're just hanging out at the beach, that can help get out of the timeline. Just take extra precaution. If you're moving about, take extra precaution with the Mercury retrograde. Calm the mind and center before any activity. And then if you can remember, wait. Wait for that signal that all is well. Just wait. Don't get up into your mind. Try to explain it. Mind wants to explain it, give you more stories about why you're jacked up or why you can't have any focus or what's wrong with you. Stop. Just feel. Be the Taurus. Use your five senses. Mindfulness meditation is a great practice for this. Getting at least 10 minutes a day. 15, even your brain starts changing after a few weeks of 20 minutes of mindfulness meditation. And preferably not a guided, but you can learn it through a guided mindfulness meditation. But I would encourage you to do it without the guide so that you can practice more attention and better focus. All right, everybody, have fun this week. This is a very, I painted a picture, but I just wanted to get everybody prepared for the possibility that mind is going to trick you. And it could really be distracting to a lot of you. Maybe already is. So calm down, wait, patience, but have fun. And the energy is in there. You can go have fun. You can travel. Just calm the mind. Don't live in the space of mind, even though this is a Gemini, because Mercury retrograde, discombobulating with the square over to Neptune. Little bits of rationality, that's fine. But if you're trying to live this whole week in pure mind space, you're going to be like me trying to deliver the CIRF report. It's confusing. You lose your train of thought, etc. So just watch out for that. I'd say just be the best Taurus through this week and live out the extremes with grace. You might have some more extremes. Who did have some extremes last week? Did you get to the extremes? And if so, good job. Did you get creativity? Did you get your portal? The portal's open. So anyway, all right, we'll talk more about the solar eclipse next time. We'll see you again next week. Enjoy this energy. Bye now.